Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Sideliners. I'm Michael Kermy with my co-host Evan Hensley. We're just going to start things off. We're going straight into EMU football. So last week, EMU went up to Mount Pleasant to friendly rivals, Central Michigan, and it was actually a disappointing loss when you think about it. We lost 30-42 in a game that we played terribly, but we were in it the entire way.
Oh, absolutely. Brogan Roback had arguably his worst game of his entire EMU career, which is bananas after how he played last week.
Yeah.
And, some people were surprised. I was not one of them. This is who he is.
See, I was surprised because 5 interceptions, I feel like that can't be who anyone is. Throwing 5 interceptions is just unreal. And the biggest issue, didn't he have 2 of them were pick sixes, correct?
Only one of them.
One of them was a pick six.
But that was the game sealing.
That was
pick six.
We were driving, or we had an offensive drive, and if he never throws that pick, we have a chance to go down and score and win this game. You can see here he threw for 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, which gives an unbelievable QBR of 9. That is not a typo. A 9 QBR. While Shane Morris on the other side, 3 touchdowns, a consistent 11 of 18 for 155 yards. You know, the former Michigan, I don't know if you can call him a standout or star, but just a former Michigan player.
And it only took him 18 attempts for them to win this way. Win 42-30. That's bananas. And like one of the biggest disappointments of this game, Sergio Bailey had his worst game as an Eagle.
I know.
He had a couple of drops. This is I've never seen him play the way he played.
One of the interceptions actually should have been a jump ball in a sense between him and the defender, and it looks like the guy just ripped it out of his hands, and it didn't seem like Sergio really cared. But a star on offense that I want to talk about was Shaq Van. Back-to-back games now, he has scored a touchdown. He had 2 last game, 1 against Central, and he did it in a game where Ian Erickson was almost just, in a sense, non-existent. He had to be that stud.
Oh, Shaq's back.
Shaq's back.
And, it was the game that he needed to get the ball rolling. Unfortunately, it's a little too late for them now. They're not going to a bowl game.
No.
And, it's brutal. It's brutal for a team with a lot of talent, like we know they have, to lose every game the way they have. This is the first game they've lost by more than a score.
Yep.
And it was the only reason it was because of that was because the Brogan Roback picked 6 in the 4th quarter.
Oh, yeah. And real quick, I want to touch on defense, though. Max Crosby and Jeremiah Harris absolutely dominated for this defense. 5 total sacks between the two, 3 for Max and 2 for Jeremiah. I mean, these guys were ridiculous, and they continue to do it the entire season.
Well, I don't even think you remember the first play of this game. What's his name? Max Crosby. Why am I losing it? He had a strip sack return for a touchdown the first play of the game.
That's right.
And that's when you're like, oh, the momentum's totally on Eastern side, and then Brogan comes out and throws an interception.
Yep.
That's just classic Eastern. But on to a game that we were a bit surprised by. We're going to stick with the Ohio State game that happened over this weekend. Ohio State hosted Michigan State down in Columbus and absolutely blew the doors open on that Spartans defense, 48-3.
Yeah, I mean, J.T. Barrett had another great game. You take away those 2 interceptions, the guy still had 4 touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing, 14 completions, and he threw for 183 yards. But I think the key, and we touched on this even before the show, the reason why they lost to Iowa is because they abandoned the run. What did they not do this game? Abandon the run. Both of their top running backs ran for over 100 yards, and I believe both of them had 2 touchdowns, or there was 2 touchdowns between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
They destroyed State.
Oh, this is one of the best backfields in football because J.K. Dobbins is one of the best true freshman running backs I've seen at Ohio State.
Yep.
Mike Weber, coming off the year as a starter, did not start this season as a starter due to a suspension. Had 162 yards on 9 carries. That's 18 yards a carry for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. No,
They've had great games.
It's incredible. And I think, and we kind of touched on this, I think OSU has pushed themselves back into the playoff conversation. And not only that, I think JT Barrett has also pushed himself back into the Heisman talks. You can't throw for 4 touchdowns against the 12th ranked team and absolutely dominate them both through the air and in the run game and not A, be considered a playoff team, and B, be considered a Heisman player. And yeah, you got guys like Baker Mayfield and Saquon Barkley and Lamar Jackson, but JT Barrett is right up in there. If he can cut down on those interceptions, this is a guy that if he declares, I could see going in the first round, maybe early second round.
JT Barrett?
JT Barrett.
Oh, he's graduating.
Well, so, but if he declares.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. JT Barrett does not have a future in the NFL.
Wow.
And I truly believe that unless he finds a way to switch to a position, which his body isn't built to play any other position other than quarterback. Okay. I really don't think he does. That's why he's one of those guys that stayed all this entire time. I know Ohio State quarterbacks don't have a good pass looking at transitioning in the NFL, but they really haven't done much at that next level.
They always end up turning into wide receivers, in my opinion, because Terrell Pryor, guy from Houston.
Oh, Braxton Miller.
I
mean, Troy Smith was never transitioned, but he was up in Montreal in the CFL for a little bit.
But that's all we have for this segment. We are going to switch over to college basketball when we are back.
Welcome to one of the fastest growing universities for freshmen in Michigan. A university where differences are celebrated. Where faculty believe their students' success is their success. Where our honors college has doubled in size, and where we are nationally recognized for educating and improving our community. Being here is about being part of something bigger. It's about being part of a family. It's about fitting in while standing out. Now's the time to challenge yourself and be surrounded by people who truly care about your success. So whether you become an artist who inspires others, a creator who develops something new, or an innovator who changes the way people think, this is your opportunity. Fuel your curiosity through research. Hit the stage and enrich the lives of others. Compete in Division I athletics. No matter your path, we all bleed green. So roll up your sleeves. Dive in. Experience learning in and out of the classroom. Be a student of life. Welcome to higher education. Welcome to Eastern Michigan University. Welcome home.
The Sideliners. I'm Evan Hensley along with Mike Kermey, and we're going to start talking about a little bit about what happened on the I'm losing it today. On the first weekend of EMU basketball this season. Take it away.
So, EMU men's basketball started out 2-0 on the season, beating Spring Arbor Cougars and the U of M Wolverines of Dearborn. But nonetheless, they're Wolverines. So as you see, they beat Spring Arbor 92-60, and they beat U of M Dearborn 97-73. Now, the things I want to talk about are 2 of our transfers, our big man, and then the third transfer. I think we can both agree the top player is Elijah Mitty on this team right now.
Always. It's not a lot of people expected to see this. Everybody expected James Thompson to come out and be the star that he's been the past 2 years. But Elijah Mitty was not a big name transfer. He's from Robert Morris.
Yep.
And but wow, what a stellar start to a career at Eastern. I mean, this is a guy who, what he dropped 22 points against Spring Arbor,
and then 27 against U of M Dearborn,
and 27, 7 for 13 shooting, And unlike James Thompson, he went 7 for 7 from the free throw line.
Yeah, actually, I believe he's been perfect from the free throw line this season so far. And what makes him so deadly is that he's a stretch four. He can attack you in the paint, but if you leave him open on the perimeter, he's going to make you pay. He's going to hit those three-point shots. Against Spring Arbor, he was a little iffy on it. He was 1 for 5, but against U of M Dearborn, he was 3 for 6 from the three-point line. This is a 6'9", possibly a 6'10" power forward hitting 3 3-pointers a game. That's ridiculous. You don't see that in college basketball these days.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be one of the best front courts in basketball.
Yeah.
Just looking at James Thompson and Elijah Minnie, those are two elite athletes, and they both know how to score. They score in different ways. And James Thompson's going to get your boards, and Elijah Minnie's going to get those second chance points.
Yeah, speaking of James Thompson, I mean, both games, once again, double-double. He's been known for that. He averaged a double-double last season. Most likely he's going to do it again this year. And what's interesting about him is, like we had just talked about before we got back from break, he elected to go into the draft to basically see what coaches were looking for. You know, they scout him out. They tell him basically what they're looking for in a player. He looks back onto himself, says, okay, am I that guy yet? Obviously, he decided he wasn't quite there yet. Comes back for his junior year. He's going to average a double-double again. And most likely after this season, he will go back to the draft, see if he's finally that player that these scouts and these GMs are looking for come draft time.
Oh, and what has been one of the biggest complaints about James Thompson? He's too thin. He's not a big guy. The guy put on 25 pounds of muscle this offseason. He looks big.
You want to know who he reminds me of in the NBA, size-wise? Dwight Howard. Absolutely. With the size-wise. I mean, obviously, Dwight Howard's more experienced. People have seen him more often. But if you were to put them side by side, you would see a huge similarity in their muscle mass and just overall stature.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's actually a really good comparison.
Thank you. And then I want to talk about the other two transfers. So we had Paul Jackson from Western Kentucky, and then Terry Harris, who came out of the JUCO League. Now, Terry Harris is our new starting shooting guard. He hasn't been phenomenal, you know. I mean, and I'm sure he gets a lot of stuff because the name may sound familiar because his brother, Tobias Harris, is a stud power forward for the Detroit Pistons. But he's got a good shot.
Oh, you're going to see the progression of him, along with Paul Jackson, who was the first true point guard I've seen at Eastern Michigan since I got here.
Pass first guy.
It's ridiculous. We were stuck with Ray Lee and Willie Mangum and Ty Toney. Ty Toney was kind of one, but he was still, at the end of the day, was still going to go try to score buckets.
Yeah, and I think the impressive thing is actually the leading assist guy on this team, though, Tim Bond, who was a stud for us last year. I wouldn't necessarily say he fell into the shadows in light of Elijah, James Thompson, Terry, and Paul. He's just switched his role. He realizes that now he doesn't have to be that lead guy. He doesn't have to be the lead scorer. He's averaging 5 assists a game with Paul Jackson right behind him at 4.5. I mean, we're dishing out the passes, and we've got the shooters to make them. This is a scary good team, and I think a lot of teams in the MAC, and even just in college basketball in general, will come to realize that Eastern Michigan's going to be impressive this year.
And what was the one thing that you were looking to see, is this going to work? Is this defensive scheme going to work? Because that's what Eastern's known for around the country, is being one of those zone defense teams. And they looked good so far. For a team made up of basically all but 3 players that are new, that's a big transition, and they did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I mean, they do a lot of full court press too, which I think so far in the first 2 games has really helped disrupt the opposing offenses. You know, they really struggle to get it across court, and by the time they do, 8 or 9 seconds are off the shot clock. Okay, so now you have 21 seconds. Now you're facing a zone defense. And the only real openings in the zone defense are down on either side of the basket. Well, if you can't get it down there, you're stuck taking a perimeter shot, which surprisingly against U of M, who came in not being a great three-point shooting team, could not miss from the three-point line, and it was actually ridiculous. We were boxing out. We were doing everything. They couldn't do anything down low, but anytime they dished it out, it didn't matter how deep they were cashing threes all game long.
Oh, well, majority of that came from one guy. It was Throgmorton. He had 6 for 9 behind the three-point line. What a monster game for him.
But they had 2 other guys who had 3 three-pointers each. I mean, that's incredible. It obviously didn't matter because Eastern still dominated and won both games by at least 20 points. So we'll see.
And these weren't supposed to be competitive games in the first place.
No.
It's you're easing your way in. You get Arkansas State this week.
Yep. But these were good games to get them into
Oh,
that
definitely.
mode. Yep.
Definitely to get the ball rolling.
And then that's kind of all we have for basketball. When we get back, what we're going to talk about is the NFL, some games that were played, some games that are coming up, and basically just our predictions for this upcoming weekend in the NFL.
Hi, my name is Shanna Gilkison, and ETV has been a very important part of my life, especially for the last 4 years.
I got my start at ETV in my 3rd semester at Eastern from fellow students, and it's been a great experience.
Working with all these new people that I didn't know before, it's very awesome just seeing how willing people are to get together and create something from scratch.
Hi, I'm Shanna Gilkison for Eastern Weekly, and this is E-Walking.
I will also be hosting and producing a sort of like a late night style talk show.
Everyone that's here wants to be here. They care to be here. They want to work. They want to learn. And with that kind of environment, everybody benefits.
I tell you, I've been doing really well, very successful here at Eastern, but it wasn't until I really became part of the ETV club that I really felt like I was getting more of what I needed as a student.
We decided that we wanted to do things above and beyond our coursework. So I was part of founding the ETV Student Org.
It just so happened that Shanna was in one of my classes, and she told me to come, and I showed up, and it was very a very warm welcome. Like, everybody was very nice to me right away. And they actually had an idea to make a sitcom, or actually they called it a soap opera at that time. And they said they had, they weren't sure exactly what they wanted, but they wanted one thing. They knew that they wanted this guy, his name is Ramon, to be their main character. I mean, that was kind of how the show Week at a Glance kind of took off.
Beyond Eastern's walls, when I'm done here, I'll probably be working with some people from ETV, again, professionally. And I think a lot of students don't take advantage of what they should with organizations on campus, and ETV is one of the best.
And welcome back to the Sideliners. We're just going to hop right into it. This weekend of football was pretty exciting.
It was an interesting weekend
It
for
was
pro football.
interesting, yeah.
Like, there was just a lot of games that were like close. There was a lot of blowouts, as you know as a Broncos fan. There was a blowout.
Anyways, we're going to talk about the first game, not the Broncos, but the Lions.
The Lions game. This was a interesting game. DeShone Kizer probably, you can't tell by the stat line, probably had his best game of his career.
Yeah.
He played really well until he got injured in the third quarter, and then the wheels started to come off the wagon for the Browns, and then that's what allowed the Lions to score the 14 points in the last quarter, because this was a game that was tight up until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, you look right here though. What did the Lions do well against, or what did the Browns do well against the Lions? Run the ball. 201 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. See, my issue is everyone was so hype about the Lions. You know, Matt Stafford got a big old contract, the biggest in NFL history, expected to just be so good. And then you go against an 0-8 team, and you allow them to score 24 points. Now, this is a defense that at the beginning of the year was a very good defense. I mean, they were a stellar defense. And then to this team, you're giving up so much, and it kind of poses a threat to the Lions' playoff run.
Oh, the last couple of weeks, this has not been a good defense.
No.
It's been a lot of Matt Stafford having to throw for 3 touchdowns every week and having to try to keep the team in the game. And they really lucked out because luckily, thank God for them, they were playing the Browns.
Yeah.
And in the Browns' defense, this was probably their best game of the season.
Yeah.
Offensively, they had a really good game. But it was, like I said earlier, it was a lot about the Lions pulling away in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 touchdowns were hauled in by Eric Ebron, Golden Tate, and Theo Riddick. Now, I think the big one that stands out there is Eric Ebron because, as most Lions fans know, he has struggled throughout the year. But do you think this is a positive note, seeing him pull in this touchdown on a deep ball? What was it, like 29 yards?
Yeah.
Does this bode well for him in the future to have a future with the Lions organization? Or do you think he's still in danger?
I think he has no future with the Lions organization.
Okay.
I think he needs a fresh start somewhere else.
Okay.
The big issue has been his hands, and he doesn't want to block. He doesn't really want to do anything that involves being a tight end. He just wants to be a wide receiver. But, in this game, you also got to see other guys get involved. I'm glad Kenny Golladay started to get a little bit involved in the offense. Marvin Jones was only held to a catch. And the running game was not horrible for the Lions. It was not great.
No.
They don't like to establish the run. We know that about the Lions.
But I think they need to if they want to be that strong team that they know they can be. We're going to move on. We had the Steelers in a close victory over the Indianapolis Colts, 20-17. This game was actually incredible when, as you see here, you look at the quarterback stat lines. Nearly the exact same. 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception for Ben Roethlisberger. 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception for Jacoby Brissett. What really stood out to you in this game? Because honestly, it was tough for me to find anything.
It was a lot. We learned a lot about the Colts, I guess, maybe.
Okay.
Jacoby Brissett might have a future as an NFL quarterback, which, me as a Patriots fan, I didn't think he had any future whatsoever as a quarterback. I thought he'd be a backup for life.
Yep.
But, he had a good game against I'd say above average Steelers defense. 222. He was hitting T.Y. Hilton, I think, had a really big game, right?
Yeah.
It
was
Chester Rogers.
Yep.
My bad. All 6 targets that were thrown to him, he had 6 catches on, and for 104 yards and a touchdown. So that was a pretty good game for him.
I think the interesting thing about Jacoby Brissett is he could actually have a good future with the Colts. There have been a lot of questions about Andrew Luck, his injury, and whether or not he could even return. Is this injury going to keep him out for the rest of his career? Does he make it back and be that stud quarterback that he was when he was healthy? Who really knows? But we're going to hop into our third and final game. The Vikings had a big and high-scoring victory over the Redskins, 38-30. And I think what impresses me the most is Case Keenum continues to be impressive. 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, and 2 interceptions, though.
Who saw this coming? Who saw Case Keenum playing the way he did? We thought the Viking season was over as soon as they said Teddy Bridgewater wasn't coming back for a little bit, and then Sam Bradford was out for the year.
Yeah. And then Kirk Cousins on the other side, only 327 yards. I say only, but he only had 1 touchdown and an interception. I think really what it comes down to is Case Keenum has these 2 studs named Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. Hands down, the best wide receiving duo in the NFL.
Did you see that coming? Did you see those 2 being the best wide receiver? I know you have a pretty good duo down in Denver.
Yeah, if we could find a quarterback.
Holy crap. Adam Thielen, are you kidding me?
He had 160 yards this game.
I think he's still top 3 in receiving yards this season.
Oh, yeah.
What is going on?
I think what's incredible is you didn't expect it because you had no clue what was going to happen with their quarterback situation. You didn't know, was it going to be Bridgewater? Was it going to be Sam Bradford? Now it's Case Keenum. No one would have ever thought it was going to be Case Keenum. But that's all the time we have for the NFL. When we come back, though, we're going to talk about our predictions for this Sunday.
Are you an EMU student interested in getting a first-hand experience working at a radio station? Well, say no more. EMU offers a class through Eagle Radio that will thoroughly prepare you for a real-life experience. But first, you have to register for the class. Pick a date and a time slot. Then the world is yours. Eagle Radio allows you to be fully independent and customize your own show. have real conversations about the news, celebrity gossip, update listeners about the weather, play a trivia game. It's your show. You're free to name your show whatever you want and play any edited music of your choice. If you love having heated debates and you feel your words need to be heard, then Eagle Radio is just for you.
Welcome back to the Sideliners. I'm Evan Hensley alongside Mike Kermey, and now it's time to talk about our predictions for the NFL this week.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just jump right into it. We have 5 games that we want to talk about. First game, well, you and I seem to differ on this one. I have it being a 24-21 victory, Steelers over the Titans.
It's supposed to say 35-21 Steelers over the Titans.
Gotcha.
That's my fault. We're not making sure that was clear. But I think Pittsburgh's going to blow out. This Tennessee defense is not that good, and I think Marcus Mariota is beat up still.
True. My issue is Ben Roethlisberger's so iffy. Week in, week out, and you even discussed this. He could go 20 points against a terrible Colts defense and then put up 35 right now. Mm-hmm. You honestly, you just never know. But the next game we're going to talk about, Broncos versus the Bengals, and I have it being a 21-14 Broncos victory because they are going to protect Brock Osweiler, and we are going to have big changes on special teams, and our defense is going to shut down Andy Dalton.
I think this is going to be a borderline unwatchable game. 17-14 Bengals, and I hate the Bengals. I just think these are two teams that are both struggling. Both potentially going to have top 10 picks in the draft. Both potentially looking for their quarterbacks of the future.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Then the next game, Rams versus Vikings. I've got it 28-24, Vikings over the Rams. And because in our last segment, what we talked about, Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs are just going to tear up the Rams.
Oh, I think this Vikings defense is phenomenal, too. I think that's why I only have the Rams scoring 20 points.
True.
And a 21-20 win for Minnesota. I just think that's going to be key. This defense is so good, and Jared Goff and Todd Gurley need a challenge.
Yep.
But on to the next one.
Okay.
Eagles-Cowboys, one of the big rivalries out in the NFC East.
Oh, yeah.
I have the Eagles obliterating the Cowboys 36-14 after the performance that the offensive line had last week.
I mean, obviously, I agree. Look at what the Eagles did to a good, well, it's tough to say now, but a good Broncos defense last week. 51 points against them. This is a Cowboys team that probably has arguably the same difficulty in offense as the Broncos did, and a worse defense. There's no way the Eagles don't put up at least 30 points against them. And then the final game that we are going to talk about, it's the Birds, baby. Falcons against the Seahawks. I have it 21-17, Falcons over the Seahawks, because Matt Ryan is going to put on a show and Tevin Coleman is going to run it down the Seahawks' throats.
This is another one without, there's another technical difficulty with this score. I have the Seahawks winning 31-24. I think Russell Wilson just keeps rolling, keeps finding ways to just win close games. And this is a game that's going to be competitive because just the Falcons are trying to revive that season.
Oh, yeah.
A season that looked lost 3 weeks ago. And now they're trying to have it take a shot at trying to get the playoffs in a division that's going to be really difficult to get it through.
Yeah, they seem to struggle with that new offensive coordinator over there, but it'll be a good show. And that's basically all the time we have in this week's episode. Join us possibly next week for the Sideliners. I'm Michael Kermey.
That's Evan Hensley. Thanks for watching.
What?